Today, 150 years of Impressionism, how a small group of artists changed the course of art history. The Impressionist painters, like Monet, who lived here in Giverny, but also Renoir and Pissarro, are adored around the world. This year, France is celebrating 150 years since their very first exhibition, a momentous show that took place in Paris in 1874.
Impression's Sunrise is the painting that gave its name to Impressionism. The port of Le Havre, portrayed by Monet, has become an icon, not because of how recognizable it is, but because of the impression it gives. An instantaneous vision of reality, just like on a photo. This is what mainstream artwork looked like at the time. Religious or mythological subjects in slightly ridiculous, unrealistic poses, painted very neatly on very big canvases and always in a studio. With the advent of Impressionism, artists went outside to hone their craft. And in a move that was considered revolutionary, they decided to depict reality and ordinary people, out for a walk, say, in a field of poppies. To represent natural light, the painters used light colors, and because they were going fast to catch the moment, the flowers are represented by dots on the canvas, as are the people's faces.
To give the impression that a moment has been captured, that time has been stopped, they use just touches of paint. They come across as not quite finished, which is not a sign of the incapacity of the artist. It's really an artistic decision.
Like photojournalists, Impressionists show us modern life. A stylish couple at the theater in this painting by Renoir, or a bustling Parisian boulevard. A new artistic style presented for the first time here in 1874 in the studio of Nadar, a photographer, and which we can visit thanks to virtual reality. Giving us the impression we are strolling through the very first Impressionist exhibition.
Nearly 10 years after the first Impressionist exhibition, Claude Monet moved here to Giverny, where he stayed until his death in 1926. It was in this place of flowers, fields and water bathed in natural light where he painted his most famous works. Philippe Piguet is the great-grandson of Monet's second wife, Alice. As a child, these famous gardens were his playground.
In the 50s, when I was about 10 years old, I often went on holidays to my grandmother's house on the other side of the village, and we would come here often for lunch. For example, I would go play with my brother in the big studio, which was completely empty except for these big wooden frames on wheels, which Monet used for big paintings, such as the famous water lilies. We pretended it was a bus. That was our game. Then, of course, my brother and I would go down to the pond to go fishing, and that was our hobby.
What was it about Giverny that Claude Monet loved so much to come and live here?
Well, Claude Monet discovered Giverny during his train journeys from Paris, where he used to live at the time, to Le Havre, where he had family. He liked going to paint on the Normandy coast. He realized that the light in Giverny had a special quality, because the Seine River reflects the light, but the light doesn't escape because of the hills. He saw this house that was for rent, a big house. At the time, he was still living with my grandmother. There was a garden, and Monet needed a garden. So that's why he settled here, without knowing that he was going to stay for 43 years, until the end of his life.
Tell us then, Philip, who was Monet as a man and as an artist?
Claude Monet était un homme.
Claude Monet was a pioneering man and artist. He loved going to England, although he didn't speak any English. I mean, no more than I do. But yes, he adored England. He really liked all the English pastries. He was going there to see Turner's paintings in particular.
Pour voir la peinture de Turner, notamment.
Tell us why Monet was so revolutionary.
Parce qu'il a complètement changé tous les codes qui existaient.
Because he completely changed all the codes that existed then.
Il n'a jamais fait un seul tableau mythologique.
Monet never made a single religious painting. He never made a single mythological painting. He wasn't someone who painted history. In other words, the heroic events of French history. Monet, like the other Impressionists, was interested in everyday life. Moments of leisure, walks in nature, and family gatherings.
Les rassemblements familiaux.
In the beginning, though, the art critics didn't like him, did they?
Vous savez, tous les jeunes artistes.
All young artists are confronted with this situation.
Les impressionnistes et Monet.
The Impressionists and Monet had a painting practice that no longer depended on mixing the colors on a palette, a physical mixture.
Des couleurs.
But by placing the colors on the canvas, one next to the other, it was the eye that had to work. So it's an optical mixture.
C'était l'œil qui travaillait. Donc c'est un mélange.
And that obviously shocked a lot of people.
Évidemment beaucoup.
And do you have a favorite piece of art?
Alors, quitte à ce que ce soit vraiment.
Even if it's really a cliché, it's Impression Sunrise. Because my real great-grandfather, so the one whose blood I have, Alice's first husband, he was the first in the world to buy Impression Sunrise.
C'est lui qui, le premier au monde, a acheté Impression Soleil Levant.
Gardens of Giverny are themselves a work of art. Thousands of visitors come here every year to admire the flowers and the water lilies made famous by Monet's paintings. The head gardener is Jean-Marie Avissard. He's been looking after this place for more than 30 years.
You can see here the water lilies that Monet loved so much. He created this whole garden just to have them.
Claude Monet était vraiment sans arrêt derrière ses jardiniers.
Claude Monet was always behind the gardeners. He really wanted to have a lot of color, as he wanted it on his canvases.
Dans tous les sens, il a coupé des arbres qui faisaient de l'ombre.
He created flower beds. In all directions, he cut down trees that were casting shade. He really wanted light and color. The garden was redesigned using pictures and accounts from people who were there at the time, and of course Monet's paintings themselves. All of these places are practically identical to what they looked like at the time. We tried to create a coherence so that people would always have the feeling of being inside the paintings, the small touches of color that an impressionist paints on his canvas.
Comme un peintre impressionniste sur son tableau.
There are lots of different kinds of flowers. It's very pretty and colorful, and it's part of history.
My school is called Claude Monet, so I'm really happy to be here and see a bit of what he did in his garden.
It's very colorful and shows like some Japanese touch with a French artistic style.
There's a blend of harmony, poetry and romanticism. It attracts people from all over the world.
And now I just wanted to come here and see what inspired those paintings.
Everyone is smiling. It's really beautiful. It's France.
Close to Monet's gardens is Giverny's Impressionism Museum. To celebrate 150 years of the movement, they're hosting an exhibition focusing on the artist's obsession with the sea. Normandy, Brittany, and the French Riviera. The Impressionists were obsessed by water and especially the sea. In this exhibition, you can admire works such as The Wave by Gustave Courbet, Manet's Rochefort's Escape, and Low Tide at Le Petit Dalle by Monet.
The Impressionists were always inspired by the sea because they are painters of light. They like to capture what's in constant motion, and what better subject for them than the sea, which is always changing with the light of the day and the reflection on the water, the constant motion. When you look at how painters like Monet and Renoir started painting with the fragmented brushwork, they had the idea while they were trying to depict water. So it's like the water created the Impressionist brushwork. This painting, which depicts the low tide in a place called Les Petites Dalles on the Normandy coast. It's a wonderful demonstration of Monet's talent. It's just the atmosphere of the day, the light, the people on the coast, just captured in a few very quick and confident strokes of paint. And there's also something that's a bit strange, a bit magical in this painting. In this area, you have rocks covered in algae, and it looks very much like Monet's depiction of these water lily pond. But we're in 1884, we're several years before Monet even created his pond.
The exhibition here in Giverny is one of dozens taking place in France this year. We'll leave you with the Normandy Impressionist Festival, which is hosting 150 events for 150 years of Impressionism. Thanks for watching. See you next time.